weapons. Okay. Let me get the timer up. Is anybody not good?
Sorry, give me a second.
Sure.
I haven't gotten
as
it
many
yet.
seconds as you need.
I haven't gotten it. Give me a second.
Did you send me what I asked you for?
Yeah, Discord.
Okay.
Okay.
I affirm the possession of nuclear weapons is immoral. Contention 1 is crisis instability. The international order is imploding. Nuclear abolition, regardless of its temporary drawbacks, is a golden path to prevent otherwise inevitable extinction. Robson et al. 23. We face excellent to rely from conflict at any time with the erosion of Putin's threats, the breakdown of arms-controlled destabilizing technologies, China's decision to expand its arsenal, instability, and Pakistan, North Korea's defiance. Unlike in previous decades when had movements about public support, there's limited pressure to reduce nuclear weapons. It's highly likely they'll be used. Even limited nuclear war estimated to kill 2 billion. Full scale could kill 5 billion people. The only guarantee is complete abolition. Concerted international effort is needed. Politicians have subscribed to real politics, decry disarmament. It's naive, rely on questionable assumptions. The bomb turns the world into a prison. The only way to win is not to play. Accidents, corruption, and human error make cumulative probability hit the roof. L23. Corruption indicates the flaw in rational choice argument, misreading, intent, failure of communication, leak of information, all the way to a crisis. Pro and side, you believe accidents are impossible. Argue leaders never calculate. Is there a possibility record is scattered with close calls? Accidents are real. 96 broken arrow. Fortune saved residents of North Carolina on multiple occasions. Signals misread. Protocols initiated in 2007. 6 missiles were loaded onto a bomber. You continue to play a game of chance as long as possibility is above zero. Likely it will occur becomes certainty. With China and Russia possessing enormous arsenals, failing to control corruption and seeking to establish that legacies of rationality, so well, time is running out. Correct against cognitive biases which shape your risk calculus away from our impacts. What do you do? To avoid breakage turns, each component must operate without slip up. We have to foresee continue good luck runs out. Even good management makes this turn probable. Airlines cannot expect luck to hold forever. Explanation of failure to risk to act as risk is hard to discern. People underestimate risk of catastrophe they have not experienced. Same is true of nuclear war. Familiarity with risk breeds complacency. This is true of low frequency, high impact risk. Takes evidence practice to save many lack concrete images of what nuclear war would be like. The danger is the time evidence arrives, chance to forestall disaster loss. Cognitive biases encourage the global cost of nuclear war. Probably to cause fall in future generations. Nuclear war seen as a long-term threat leaves pressure for radical change. If any event of non-zero probability is bound to materialize, you can see nuclear war is inevitable. World War III is imminent. Trump is off the radar. Iran has proliferated nukes. Russia is probing NATO now. She sees the U.S. as distracted, and Kim just doubled his missile production in the week 26. Iran proliferated war in response to U.S. intervention. Trump new imperialist project unilateralism, evident dangerous precedent. Prospect of the Third World War closer than ever. Tensions worse since last June. Summer looked to drag in U.S., Russia, China both back down. Threat from Tehran's nuclear program heightened claims by Trump debunk. Russia readiness never war scale. Putin ready if necessary. Provocation of NATO at pinch points. Begun testing NATO defenses. Successful ballistic cruise missile marked another escalation. Trump emboldens Russia's efforts. Encourage attack force. All conflict. Beijing sees is an integral part to announce Taiwan's party, which won a third term last year, held live fire drills, tested new ships. Taiwan by 27 Centimeter PLA, with Trump's focus on regime change, might calculate too distracted. Risk global confrontation. North Korea last week fired ballistic missiles. Kim called the devil tactical guided weapons. Conducted test firing warship, launched nuclear missiles. China pressuring to open a new front so China can take Taiwan. New attack magnifies escalation risk by breaking strategic stability. Only disarmament solves. Sour 25. Emerging tech undermined nuclear stability could replace nukes. AI, cyber, advanced hypersonics pose threats. Reshapes calculations faster, maneuverable modern missiles, threaten early warning systems, delivery platforms. States stop preemptive posture, swarm sensors make subs detectable, eliminate second strike. Way out, eliminate nuclear arsenals. Credibility of nuclear detectable, enormously destructive, lack credibility. Modern conventional weapons occupy a valuable middle ground. Data poisoning is a unique escalation vector. Falcon 23. Modern CNC relying on computer central cyber exploitation, significant risk of outdated retaliatory option components may be compromised in supply chain, can introduce malicious codes, moving inject false data in key systems, hiding missiles or creating fake signals, likely by non-pure or terrorist group. The Swiss cheese model represent individual safeguards. However, launch under attack posture creates opportunity for system weakness, creating incentive to trust early warning systems when used. Decision chain begins precedent informed by vulnerable data in high stress environment. China's rise to nuclear pure status is particularly worrying. Broad 23. The Cold War avoided nuclear war with mature structures, economic stability, tensions began as first nuclear arms were tested, and tendencies on forced parity to reduce conflicts at Moscow and Washington on equal footing as is the case today. Departure Beijing's plan to reduce 1,500 nuclear warheads by 2035, a five-fold increase making the nuclear peer. Nuclear war causes extinction and collapses the environment. Bonachik et al. 23. Detonation, direct physical effects, species, mortality, impaired species, capacity to reproduce, cascading effects on terrestrial and marine life, contamination lasts thousands of years, intermediate effects on air quality, biodiversity, deforestation, wildfires, habitat, water, soils would increase significantly, plume, alter climate globally, radiation lives, oxygen, lower temperature, affect planetary primary productivity, causing declining crop production, road food security, contaminating, making any agriculture unfit for consumption, large fires extend damage, spread particles, destroy forests, wetlands, and biodiversity, hotspots, accelerate extinction, directly hamper survival, decision makers underestimate consequences of nuclear war, direct consequences on habitable ecosystems, and the Anthropocene by moving far from boundaries that make the planet habitable. Conventional deterrence trumps the nuclear wrong. Why between 3 nuclear weapons are relevant for deterrence lack of major power wars since 1945, not due to presence of nukes, but destructive conventional militaries. Examining key flashpoints, Cuba, Arab, Israeli war, nuclear deterrence strategies more provocative, studies to use of force, and absence involving USA and Soviet outcome determined by conventional military balance at local level with the nuclear arsenal. Main factor irrespective of severity, non-nuclear states industry with nuclear power more likely to escalate even when one party has nuclear weapons will not affect likely to initiate it. A litany of examples decisively dispute deterrence, Bluebert's 15 limits a world without nuclear weapons as war prone wrong since 1860, wrong for dynamite, submarines, artillery, smokeless powder, machine gun, and poison gas. Nuclear armed states never fought, proven wrong. 1969 clash between China and Russia. 1999 between India and Pakistan. Nuclear armed states attacked by non-nuclear states. U.S. troops attacked by China forces in 1950, Vietnamese in 1960s, Israel by Syria and Egypt in 1973, Iraq in 1991, 1982, Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands. Contention 2 is framework. Political philosophy doesn't attempt to answer what is truth, but rather questions of just pragmatic governance. Round number 5. Political philosophy reflects the names of action must consider realization philosophy which abstract from realizability doomed fail. Political philosophy which is not metaphysics but practical, deals with contingent matters, unlike norms in general, which rule acts of a person, establishing rules by which a multitude are regulated. Political actions are actions of the whole, unless we some persons rule other subjects over free persons, therefore any justification that makes it in search of consent. This makes Util a necessary metamorality to arbiter inevitable moral disagreements through cosmometric. Green 13. We need a metamorality to make choices among competing values. Perhaps moral questions have no objective answer. Even if that's true, knowing that's not much help, we have to choose. A pragmatist seeks agreement in shared values, a currency for weighing values based on experience we all care about. None of us want suffering, lie behind everything we value. Here's a philosophy no one loves, but everyone gets. Doesn't require magical abilities to measure happiness, constantly calculating. It's our best guide to life. Nah, I'm just playing. I'm good for CX.
Okay, everyone. All. Okay. New tech magnifies escalation. What tech is this?
Hypersonic missiles, AI.
Hypersonic missiles. How does one get rid of those hypersonic missiles?
Not our point. Our point is that
Okay, well,
hypersonic
okay.
missiles are good, but they're bad insofar as nukes exist.
Okay, sure. You read New Impact to New War. That's like cause extinction and collapse the environment. What's the terminal to the second part of that?
Terminal to second part is it is internal link to first part. So our
Second
argument
part
is that,
the internal link to first part, which is
What?
cause extinction.
well, collapses the environment
Where
is
does it
part
say
of why
that?
it causes extinction. Where does it say that?
Yeah.
It says it has cascading effects on terrestrial and marine life. It says
Terrestrial
that
and marine life,
it
got
would
it.
spill over globally. It says it would alter climate globally, is in the third paragraph.
Okay, sure. Okay, want to talk about contention to framework.
Sure.
Okay, util is more meta-morality. What is util?
Util, our argument, I mean, like if you're gonna make claims like we didn't have like a standard text, we're gonna say that's dumb.
No, I'm
Our
just
argument is,
clarifying.
what is util?
Yeah.
We think we should do greatest good for greatest number.
Greatest good. What does good mean?
Good, pleasure.
Pleasure.
They're
What is-
the same
What's
thing.
the opposite of pleasure?
Pain.
Or is like only
Pain.
pleasure mattering?
Pain,
Pain.
opposite,
Okay, where
important,
did you
suffering,
highlight?
bad.
Okay, sure. Where did you highlight pleasure mattering?
We said quality of experience. We think that obviously includes pleasure. If you're gonna make the same argument your teammate did,
Quality
then
of
we don't think this
experience.
gets you anything.
Where
But
does it say
quality of experience, sure. Currency for weighing competing values based on experience we all care about.
I straight up just don't. Currency for weighing competing values.
Okay, it's the,
Where did you highlight that pleasure was the one? Like,
we said quality of experience, like enjoying
you
experience of
highlight
life. Dude, be so for real right now.
what
No.
is it line? Quality
Dude,
of experience.
I read you the line. I said that I just read you the line based on experience. We care about experience. Pleasure is good. It's synonymous with good.
Based on experience, where does it say that pleasure is a good experience? You just like suffering mattering. You didn't just find pleasure mattering, did you?
Well, pleasure is the absence of suffering.
Okay. The first card, political philosophy, is can answer what's truth. Why is like governance or pragmatic governance an intrinsic good as opposed to just pain and pleasure?
We've identified a couple of things. The first, well, this is like a meta-ethical claim about why.
No,
it's-
your meta-ethics util.
No, our meta-ethic is pragmatism.
Well,
We
no,
didn't say,
okay,
like,
you
I think
justified
none of these
util
words
being
mean
intrinsic.
anything.
I
We
understand.
defended Util as a result of saying that the judge should adopt a pragmatic posture to questions of truth epistemically.
You defended the opposite. You said util is the meta-morality and arbiter inevitable. You said,
Util
like,
is a
util
meta-morality
intrinsic, and then you
that
said
comes
before-
before all other systems because of pragmatism. The green
Okay,
card says for the
justify
deep
why
pragmatism.
matters.
Justify why it matters, because states represent people other than themselves. That means that they have to care about how their actions
It's an
impact
aspect
others.
argument. Where does a resolution have a state?
Nuclear weapons are only owned by states in the status quo.
Okay, but it doesn't provide obligations to states, does it?
I think it does. I think immoral is an obligation. I think when you say like something is immoral, if I say it would be immoral for me to hit you, that is a normative claim I
based
should.
on utilitarianism.
Yes.
Okay. Forward the case.
Bro. Sorry, that was the timer, not you.
Is it a forward the case? Yeah, framing advantage.
Word.
Opening doc. 4 off, correct?
Yeah.
And then framing before contention.
Yeah.
Okay, I open it.
There we go.
1 second, my friend. Opening. Opening doc.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Everyone. Good. Topicality, interpretation of moral in legal sense is the same as the moral sense, but the act is burden to prove a legal obligation against applying moral. In 2039, to prove moral conduct not conforming to moral law, we call it the moral breakdown. It is ethically wrong that would be a scandal for courts to treat as lawful and negate nukes or legal sense. In 16, substantial legal doubt because nukes are explicitly and comprehensively prepared to negate more predictability, we said legal and moral consensus to legal education, understanding, and nuance of legal readings. Covers education of exportable knowledge, next up, see moral use for moral and class moral obligation. Alexander, 1852, the idea morality includes moral obligation, moral act should not be performed. Contrary to say was moral obligation to perform a moral act ought not be done. This became a common situation involved every considered morality, following up down, proving optionalities with proofs and allegation. Oxford 25, equality available to be chosen obligatory epistemic regress claim to 14, evidence proving reason by prima facie effort and true the target's regress promise. P1 and P2 P1 supports P1 only if P2 supports P2 only if P1. The first propositions each the component has successor that supports it not possible. P2 supports P1 part of a variety reason. There's an variety reason to believe P is the first proposition that has successor that supports endless regress. B criterion problem. Presumed A2 found method decline was the least are genuine knowledge which are good beliefs good to have which neither deciding but good methods how to decide whether good methods are we can't continue to lead to regress. C falsifiability Nichols or five law universal and cannot be verified and beyond those observed can be falsified a single negative. The first black swan refuted all solids are white no negative. Testing hypotheses absolutely true or epistemic efforts of interpretation of foundation for knowledge. Next up is circular A4 counterplan the possession of nuclear weapons of the nations not named the United States is immoral. The best White House Office of Management and Budget should read the most recent circular A4 to include directives for ability to construct 8th century including such directives require the disarmament of nuclear weapons. Federal agency should ban the disarmament of nuclear weapons. The federal agency of the United States should and sue said agency on the grounds not compliant with the circular A4 directives is evidence that arbitrariness under the Administration Procedures Act. The Supreme Court should rule in favor of the executive. Circular 24. Court of the APA starts on arbitrary actions not compliant with circular A4 processes of arbitrariness under APA. Circular A4 is maybe a guiding guide legal binding compliance not required statute agency failure to comply with the A4s concerning these do encapsulate the best standards California versus Barnhart use of non-compliance as barometer for decision making breaks as CEO not used for to be enforceable or to be noticeable non-compliance with circular A4s and arbitrariness serial advantages the result tension between authorities theories of laws while maintaining SOP treaty non-compliance arbitrariness the required criterion of right or the existing review agency national more faithful to APA approach was recognized non-compliance for mandates evidence of arbitrariness not the legal sense will be better conform to expectation effectively circular A4 revolutionized agency cost benefit analysis and independent insurance case Goodwin 24 case of nature environmental production the regulatory CBA has been seen as obstacle to meaningful progress circular A4 avoided private agency with movement for regulatory analysis prior to specific technical methods CBA and monitoring is not valid regulatory other options with variety of attributes that difficult identify mother card identifies still over the optimal management over slew of race 16 chain load 122 risk managed if use the CBA has pedigree evaluation of risk using cost benefit lies barriers not methodological if the other contributed risk an agency in action contributes climate AI after pandemics bioengineering or AP this ACBA plays limited role to sending people for CBA to call attention it takes the result of coordinate order exam for Michelle making decisions are not self-fulfilling because of limits in course of our decisions rely on other institutions carry out the directive determine competition solely through mandates by the target mandates in 25.3 butterfly change 1 0 difference small effects changes that can easily lead to unforeseen consequence policies send ripples of government policy for balancing both the card and balancing toggle requirements for close the mechanism is associated alternative no one meaning that Congress this clause is in danger clause present tense where it is refers to by some point in time someone who's in danger past cannot be described as is in danger by the card is in danger present that means all this there is 28.3 the licensing was suggesting use of advertising low but not be adequate as a single it's a single kind of energy saying not some not use the connotation precisely because it's ordinary common sense the reference group as a whole functional competition only one ground plus equal means all generics which increase cause of racist laws so they can functionally start with the plan to predictability very green for next the opportunity cost potential competition obvious post after what making debates about text in the back of the card net vacuum down next up is a critique Util sexist and denies bodily autonomy Bennett the 13 what if only matters human happiness creates a moral obligation for reproduce it also eugenics Pharaoh 7 obligation for maximizing energy disability similar to eugenics obligation procreate benefits independent benefits for well future of being children being these seem to make harm to their advantages being enhanced there must be costs in the normal when patients impose these costs to do something morally wrong framework about the one to see as research projects centering debate solely about hypothetical consequences of friends interrogating justification and assumption behind policy proposals, internalizing unethical research done successfully, outweighs denying ultimately unfair because it directs engagement, making it possible, and being here's a prerequisite for any benefits that matter independently. One subject commission debaters that ultimately personally pass the plan bureau, but countless hours each time prepping and debating, choose the beliefs by the Kentucky police, release 21, counter to neurobiological demands, dynamics and simulator coordination to make the work perform, make them more repeated, they become unstable if they're not exercised enough, what subjects ignore is not modulated by passing a scheme, or engaging some maintenance, continue body exists or appropriate environment, depends on social resources, the individual and actors of course having claims, but their experiences are pathologizing other models by neurobiological dynamics, ways of thinking are internalized, enacted to the ballot norming, disclosure parameters, applies negative in case, would have been incomprehensible 20 years ago, but individuals institutionalize them, alternative accounts, the lack of explanatory power, values, values paid, which makes him to be an aspect of it, experimental at first, maker intercontingent upon links to the reading of the philosophical framework. Now, on animal whiteout, their arguments, just like pain and pleasure being intrinsic good or bad, is no justification for excluding non-human beings from pragmatic governance. It makes no sense when they said the meta-ethics is to shape governance, is pain and pleasure, there's no reason why governance is intrinsically good, and just proves that governance should act in our way. The one is justifies negative util, their only valid approach, says that pain matters, not pleasure, insert new one of your arguments, they justify the standard. Now, current and future transparency, astronomical animals suffering, 24, harms, new cause animals is very significant over 10 trillions for real skill and slaughter causes animals suffering, and over the industrial lives, current affairs can be even worse. Number of exploited animals increase substantially, have no population growth, nothing. Demand for production, diminishing changes occur in recent decades, this by recent advances that begins increase abuse of other animals because widespread currently having about increased dramatically from the harm. Inflicted immense as time passes, more animals exploited, exceeding the number of those who suffer in the near future occurred even if farms reduce technology, creating new methods, exploiting an able imagine already witnessing this with never farming use made worse and quickly new animals and created using synbio animals suffer new more significantly maybe genetically designed for inflict or severe pain. New organisms bottom of approach suffering for the same reason why it's difficult for us to assess because of the creatures different from current animals, making it more likely for suffering to go unnoticed. All these happen simultaneously. Animals exploited to grow exponentially. In this scenario, for a very long time, use of AI has played a crucial role through exploiting systems. Automatically outweighs due poor year factory farming, outweighs every human that ever lived. Best and most recent studies. Nelson 24. Look at how many animals count as one human if we were the consciousness. If it would have different welfare range, we look to the most deterrent and comprehensive studies. We kill the equivalent of 160 billion humans a year through farming through human catastrophe. Around 8 billion ones down every year. Suffering cause even more than nuclear war would. It's try or die, prioritizing every average greater suffering and interventions are due to fail. Running 22. Most importantly, intervention in capture farming numbers are lower than wild animals. Suffering is higher than animals with life. That negative should no longer be created. Existence of agriculture maintains that choose an international circle expansion soon. We reduce more animals, be safe, counting in existence. Number of farm animals continually increase. While population begins decreasing, so does the number of humans through art. Extinction is skip that part. Prioritize species neutral approach to ethics. Anything else is slowly so to genocide. Jaeger 24 species and highest level of racism. Scientists based on large samples and examine attitudes related to animals, tradition, to validation animals share the same psychological mechanism. Empirical support for link skepticism related to racism, personal species, attitudes be less supportive of gay, black, and women's rights higher. On SDO, also the higher specialists likely to condemn animal cruelty. Specialist attitudes were positively correlated with ethnic prejudice. Deal this very positive effect when usually with a host of factors associated with human superiority and prejudice was again positive. On the card positive.
Alright, dude, you good?
Yeah.
Alright.
Anything extempted?
No.
Okay. Animal suffering, there's two internal links, correct? The first is like wild animal suffering, the second is factory farming, is that correct?
No, not wild animal suffering.
Okay, so you didn't make claims about wild animal suffering, just factory farming?
No, technology.
Technology, okay, what's the technology argument?
This argument says that AI is being developed, synthetic biology is being developed to cause more suffering in animals.
Okay,
because
why?
Even if there are more vegans in the future,
Like
the technology is used to create more animal suffering because of economic exploitation. If there is any
Okay, what
demand,
technology,
whatever,
what card do you think says that animal suffering comes from technology?
like the first card.
Okay, the first card. Is that current and future trends guarantee
Current
astronomical
and future
suffering?
trends, there's already synthetic biology plus factory farming exists right now, cause massive amounts of suffering.
Okay, why is the solution death?
Because nothing can resolve animal suffering except for a nuclear war.
Okay, only cards that were read, you read down to species neutral approach to ethnics, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the Util K. You didn't read the
Topic link, you just read the Util link, correct?
Yeah.
Why is Util sexist?
Few reasons. It requires reproduction.
Why?
Well, it's because people are said that, okay, if pleasure matters, or if your argument about like positive utilitarianism is true, then it requires people to reproduce. Or
Why?
at least it says
Why?
that people have moral worth when they reproduce, because they introduce more humans on Earth.
Wait, why do we have an obligation to introduce more humans? Like,
Even
why
if you
does
don't have an obligation per se, you have it deems your moral worth based on how much pleasure you produce.
No, it doesn't.
Well, this is an argument about why it requires reproduction.
Like, why do future gens matter if they don't exist, is like my question for Util.
Well, the thing is, your argument justifies future generations.
No, it doesn't.
Your argument is basically like everyone has a semblance of what pain and pleasure are.
Okay,
Obviously, there's future generations can't exist in there's future generations. Obviously, you wouldn't say like one person who is a second from being born, like, doesn't have any more worth.
Okay, counterplan, net benefit.
Internal.
Okay, what does it do?
Sure. Basically, it amends a circular A4, which is basically a Cliff's Notes guide to federal law. Never
Wait,
passes
I
in
just
line
heard a
of
bunch of
record.
words, I don't know what they mean.
Circular A4 is like a directive towards the federal like bureaucracy. So amending it and listening to it would be good. The court order would have us listen to it. That's necessary because it cements what's called cost-benefit analysis, which is not prevalent in bureaucratic systems.
Okay, competition, why?
Few reasons is must be immediate. This delays the process of disarm. The means all. Mandates, that's a big one. Like planning.
What's the mandate that you think you've defined?
Well, court order. That's never
Court order. Okay. Wait. Why is AF
court order is
fiated?
just a directive.
Why AF fiated?
Well, this argument says that court orders never deem anything moral or immoral.
Okay.
If the affirmative doesn't fiat, then it could be like squat.
Wait, why don't courts order anything immoral? I feel like when courts rule. Did I set a 4-minute timer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad. I'll take some prep. I'll start now. What's the status of the off?
Okay.
Okay, I have 147. I'm sending the doc. Order. The order is going to be where did I say that? Okay, the order will be the case, and then it'll be T legal, then it'll be T immoral, and then it'll be the counterplan. No, we'll do Util K then counterplan. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Put case last. I know, I'm crazy. So
the case still before the counterplan?
yeah. Okay. So T legal, and then T optionality or whatever, and then Util K, and then counterplan case. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Cool. What's up? Okay.
Just making sure case last.
case is last, yes. One sec. Okay, let me get my timer. Okay, cool. T legal, we meet plaintiffs in a vacuum, it's best. Otherwise, it doesn't solve two NRs. It's the most radical basis if they win their interpret change what the plan does, which means that it says that they are illegal now. Makes it, their interpret's bad, it makes the topic about fact. We agree. The moral is moral obligation on the other page, which answers this. Next off. We meet. Plaintext in a vacuum was on the other page. Anything else is unpredictable. It doesn't force two NRs because it's just part of the linked debate for anything else. Morality being optional is kind of our point. The criterion problem is solved by Util. It's the only way to. They drop the problem of moral disagreement is solved by the quality of experience because all agents go about actions by appreciating and avoiding pain. Moral uncertainty frames the rest of this because each of us has different moral beliefs that come with our upbringing. The falsifiability component is not contextualized to Util, but they haven't proven that it's falsifiable. And this is a bad logic because debate is offense defense. We have a risk of our offense and a risk that it matters in all the cards we're going to read. Absolute truth is irrelevant because we still have a risk that we are absolutely correct, and we meet this argument. Util cat. We didn't say future gens, but there's no moral obligation in this card. It's like one sentence long. It isn't sexist. It doesn't force anything because our whole point is autonomy matters and that people should be allowed to. We just need to win. The death is a side constraint on everything else, which is what we're going to win because it denies the possibility for future value. That means that it only arbiters instances where it's necessary for the state to allow people to practice their own beliefs. Otherwise, they can't in all other instances. That's why we said it's a meta-morality for states, which means that there's no link to this. Util is good. It's the only logical basis for why things, their impacts matter, which is what they get at on the case page because it's the only thing that allows us to empathize with things like other species, which they said is important. Now, framework, interpretation, evaluate the desirability of the 1EC against links to anything. That's good because it allows them to interrogate it and allows testing of the 1EC, which forces the best defense of their theory and forces contextualization rather than broad sweeping statements. Prevents interrogation is false. They can get links to anything with solves accessibility. There's no internal link. It's inevitable, but it's solved by judge choice. Can choose not to vote on these arguments. Prerequisite is false. Subject formation. They need to win a link for all these arguments, but subject formation is best actualized by testing. Otherwise, it's internalized as judge grew incomprehensible. There's no reason that is the case because the debate norms are not because people were winning. Now, next off. Interrupt, they can only fiat actors of the planet. Anything else allows infinite carve-out that's non-reciprocal. Reject laundry list impacts. Merely saying the words climate or bioengineering are sufficient and miss warrants. Perm do both certainly solves this. The counterplan, the moral, it doesn't matter if it doesn't say anything is moral because they said that morality still has a legal component that's tied to it. They're actually not making that argument because we conceded it. It doesn't matter if it's not fiated. Perm do the counterplan will be in second. Butterfly effect can't be cross-applied to anything because prediction is inevitable and good. We have to make choices in life. Counterplans that claim to solve the AF by resulting in it are bad. It steals AF ground and allows them to infinitely spam slop from recycled from different topics without warrants. All the definitions will be modified by the. Now, perm do the counterplan. The identifies a unique member of a class. Captain 24 definition of the function word indicate following noun has been specified is a unique or particular member of its class. Otherwise, single weapons picks obliterate AF ground. Normal means evolution solves their offense, but it's not grounds for counterplan competition. Neck has NFU and deterrence against anything. Don't be greedy. Now. Con is bad. 1. Skew. Legalizes contradictions, makes generating offense impossible. 2. Responsibility. Lets them proliferate bad arguments at no cost to inform the 1 error. 3. Dispo. Gives multiple arguments, but with strategic cost. 4. Greed. NFU deterrence against every AF, and we're whole rest. Case. Not answering the framing stuff because it's all answered by the cards we're going to read. Extinction outweighs and can't be good because humans are the sole source of positive value. Green 19. Despite moral shortcoming, humanity is the only species capable of ethics. Humanity ought to continue to exist so that ethics itself may be retained. But democratically, the possibility of there being responsibility is all of objects with responsibility. The first, it is the premise that makes any subsequent moral argumentation possible. Humanity seems the only one of its kind. Devils might assert existence is relevant, cannot assert moral ought to their argument. The solution to animal suffering is not death. We can't err af on this question because we don't know how animals feel. Plant 16 arguments in favor of WAS are unconvincing. The case is highly selective, imagining bad aspects rather than all experience and immense speculation about how good or bad experiences. Be wary of overstepping epsilon limits and careless anthropocentrism. Thomas overstates the case. 3. End of animal exploitation is inevitable even without moral resolution. Reese 18. The world has gotten much better, yet animal situation is suffering. Today, however, a better metric is attitudes driver of future principles. Argued that just 47% support of animal slaughter choices, 32% said animals deserve the same rights. This is a good reason for optimism. With every movement, we've seen people transcend individual choices via institutional change. We've already seen companies commit to cage-free eggs. Attitudes suggest optimism might apply to animal welfare, ethical costs, projected downfall, destroy industry efforts as wholly insufficient. Mark that card insufficient. Moral and economic trends will, does more harm to logical Johannesson. 16. Worry CRISPR will require harm on animals are not justified negative duties. Priority must be large size species and consider hypothetical. Nations owned are strategies for 80% died during a sea per generation might be 500 million, 24 million deaths per generation sufficient to justify forced genetic experimentalism. That card is marked as experimentalism.
4 or 5.
4.
Did you say experimentalism?
Yes. That's Johansson 16.
Can you read this sentence?
Experimentation or experimenting?
Yeah.
Justify forced genetic experimentation. Sorry.
voter issues were condo, the other things, strong the argument, correct?
Sure.
Really? Alright,
Yeah.
thanks. Case conditionality.
Overview or ev, question mark?
Yeah, there's overview. Oh,
there
yeah,
ev?
my bad. Yeah, there totally is, yeah. At the bottom of the dock.
So, sorry, did you give an order?
Case condo. Condo was on, it was either case or the counterplan.
It was on the process.
Okay.
One sec, I'll open the doc. Oh. I'm opening the doc. Okay, I am,
Wait, it's just the stuff at the bottom down?
Yeah.
This is, okay.
Or the 1 AR dock, yeah.
Okay.
okay, I'm good, dude. Wait, one sec. Let me just move something down, sorry. I'm good.
Okay. Everyone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Certainly the two libel at words explicitly answering the one to see somehow drop factory farming in every framing issue. So this is auto-win. I'll drop best studies of factory farming indicates that a year of suffering outweighs every human that ever lived. Explicitly compares suffering via nuclear versus nuclear war. So all of the cards are irrelevant. And this is the newest studies. It cites scientific consensus versus philosophical versus some random philosopher. None of the arguments outweigh. Even if life is getting better for animals, they have to win is getting definitively better. That outweighs. They have to win that's getting better like instantaneously because they dropped a year mathematically outweighs. So you should have to err negative. Even if life is getting better, nothing outweighs current animal suffering. That was about a framing issue. They did not do the positive util work. Considering I line by line all the cards, they dropped the highlighting of the card that says that only suffering matters, and it's their prerogative to highlight argument. They are arguing about experience and justify pleasure or pain. They said suffering is bad, and I agreed. Either way, even if they're not compared, even if suffering and or pleasure are not better or worse than a vacuum, they dropped the magnitude of animals outweigh because the amount of animals outweigh every human that ever lived. They all experience pleasure. Much more animals dropped argument, and the number of animals outweigh humans by order of magnitude, and the suffering outweighs every human who ever lived. They dropped every internal link, tech, jobs, AI, synthetic bio is coming down due to increased warrant. Also dropped factory farming, increased horse race is on 24, cites current trends, tens of trillions of startup houses, cause immense suffering to animals. Drop. Now, first argument was green. This card is insertion, made by a bachelor's in philosophy, didn't justify anything. They dropped pain outweighs their highlighting, and the sheer scope of the animal life is net negative, which was an argument they dropped from scientific studies that estimate human and animal life. They didn't say anything about humans. When he said pain and pleasure, dropped scientific estimates. So their argument about the pragmatism is irrelevant because pragmatism is shaped insofar as utilitarianism is good, and to drop the utilitarianism concludes negative because suffering of animals best be always. Either way, this is not insertion. They drop scientific consensus from the 1 and C. This says the newest research, the Hilton evidence was very, very clear. It says the newest research on plant animal studies. It says that even if animals are less conscious or less empathetic than human beings, their suffering still matters, and that they always on an order of magnitude. If you account for every technological increase, then green evidence is about empathy. There's no warrant for why animals can't feel empathy, considering they have a similar neurobiological in the context of the United States as humans, and they drop that species neutral suffering is anything else is racist or sexist because it justifies exclusion based on the fact that I don't know the other person, which was answered on Skep. They just dropped this argument. They say animal life. They say the solution isn't dead. The plant evidence is wrong. They have to win. The animal life is net positive. This argument is about human life. This argument also doesn't say anything. It's just that we should be skeptical. But being skeptical means you should err negative because the amount of animals that ever existed always harms people. There's no impact to death really because the argument is just about positive experiences, but they need to win. Animals are capable of accessing those positive experiences. Either way, they dropped the warrant, so it's 100. The argument about skepticism doesn't apply to animals. For the older, it doesn't assume news research that makes it certain. Now, the negative here. Now, I don't have to read negative utilitarianism because they now read positive utilitarianism. The Reese evidence about moral exploitation is zero. This argument is provided from courts written by animal experts, obviously trying to rally up people for their moves. We also dropped more recent evidence from 24 that says it's increasing, and even if there are some countries that want to ban factory farming, they need to win both. They ban it within the next year, and the fact that factory farming will get banned. The job population is increasing. Human beings will be increased, and they drop synthetic biology, and economic incentives means that they'll torture more animals, have short-lived lives and painful lives. Their argument doesn't say anything. Their argument is about polls. Obviously, humans are anthropocentric and want to vote on polls. They drop newest evidence indicating that scientifically animal suffering is massive. They say the economic trends. They flips the other way. They drop the first card that indicates in 2024 that animal trends are going downhill because of recent trends like biosynthetic biology, etc. This was also far too early. At least one of these cards were, so you should ask for a card doc at the end. Considering we're massively outcarding them on literally everything. They say the animals will decrease. Wrong. They drop that synthetic biology and factory farming means that even if they decrease, the amount of suffering will still increase. They also have to win. They decrease within the next year because they dropped the framing issue. 1 year of suffering is worse than every human that ever lived. They say does more. They say the Johansson card. This was far too early. You asked in flex and this argument doesn't justify anything. It just says that CRISPR might treat it, not that they treat pleasure or pain. Not that they drop that CRISPR doesn't apply to factory farms. They have no economic incentives to do so, and governments don't want to do so, which is their argument. They have to win that every factory farm is to collapse, considering a year of factory farming equals 160 billion people. This literally says nothing as well. It's about R-selected animals. They drop newest studies that indicates that's net negative. Now, reject the argument and every theory or interpretation they said in flex private keto preserve substance education conditionality is good. We get what we did. One neg flex, you can drop EAs, kick the app, and never defend app keys, returning defense friends testing that ways. They have to ask unique solvency. They have infinite final word, especially on this topic. You know unifying net ground, especially versus small apps and future apps because they can defend that via subset apps. They'll concede firm to the counterpart which justifies subset apps. They can be different. They can be small countries, singular ecosystems. So we need to test the affirmative. It turns the research standard because it means that affirmative has a research app key for every subset they choose, and fairness outweighs because only impact your valid can solve that. I'll concede that on their argument that the logic will the next prove the app bad if can't what's quote good, independently non-rest theories, unpredictable kinds of substance, leading spec a priori, or URL theory. read logic is meta constraint debate. Illogical arguments are not arguments. Af condo. Af condo is conditional because the true can choose like a monkey. More means af can be vague and shift. Reasonability, weight loss, topic attributes, outweigh feeling wants to be the topic or subject kind of are unfairly boons, proud better for nothing. The after proof. Overwhelmingly good norms, race the bottom shells are impossible to meet. Still have a new one later. Intervention is false. Weighing solves. There's no opportunity cost of reading theory. There's also so short. Now, display wrong. 1. Permeating the audible pleaser and hunger. The text big person cheese can't solve. 2 is illogical and choosing the true and can't solve straight during counterpoints, but not prepared for, especially since they have infinite prep to prep out subsidized in different affirmatives that can fit out of all new Portier skew is wrong. Miss utility will counterpoints can be grouped easily without key research is wrong because they can because as readers race first was chill research time allocation plus flash tells above condo. I'm beating a dead horse. There's no chance they win on the wipeout argument because all the arguments all the cards are so old, not explained, do not do any line to line drop key framing issues, especially in the tags that says that a year of animal suffering outweighs every human that ever lived. I'll read your card. It's here about negative util is confirmed, just couple of 22 ways every more than having each other, so and you or see you cut intuition trying to make sure those two 30 times more having the people that require that outweighs career and good proportion requires intensity levels increase. Well, the card increase.
Okay. Cool. I have 147. I'll start now. T-ought case.
What'd you say?
T-immoral case. Okay. Okay. Because we made the arguments there. Is anybody good or not good? Okay, cool. The debate breaks down pretty clearly in an unexpected way. You should reread our arguments about pragmatism. Remember, our point was moral disagreement. You should remember cross-examination. We did not just say pain is bad. We said pain is bad because it is a provisional judgment we can make while we continue to determine ethics. Moral uncertainty is a drop framing issue that we made on this page. We said that different people will have different upbringings, which means that insofar as humans should continue to deliberate over ethics because we are unsure about what ethics are, and the great evidence says it is unclear when we will find out that answer. The only unconditional good is preserving humanity's collective existence. It's unclear why pain is the basis for ethics, but we said on the Util K and on T-ought is that consent matters, and that the reason that death is bad under our framing is not just that suffering is bad, but that it is we should continue to deliberate about ethics. The reason that it is bad under our pragmatic util is not just because it's painful, it's because we should use human pain as a side constraint because we know that that is the only thing that unifies human values while we continue as humans to deliberate over what ethics are. We did all this explanation and they're just misunderstanding how our office operates. Case. Humanity is the only species with ethics. 1, responsibility drop. We're the only species that has a notion of responsibility and understanding of how we can care for each other and our collective understandings, whereas animals operate on instincts. 2, we're the only ones that have the ability to theorize ethics. Ethics are an inherently human concept. That is not something they've disputed. Empathy, internal link is strong. They said that neurobiology answers this, but that's not the case. It is not only pain that matters. We said the human pain matters because it allows us to have a provisional meta-morality. We did not say that it is the morality of the basis for everything, which no links most of the things that they're going for in the Tunar. There's 2 things that they have. The first First is synthetic biology. I'm totally unclear what he's even talking about when he gets to this, but there isn't even a warrant for which kind of synthetic biology. They've dropped that CRISPR would be a good thing, which means that that probably is the closest thing to synthetic biology that they're getting at. They dropped that that will be used in the future to reduce all animal suffering, which prevents that from being an issue. Second is factory farming. We'll answer it with defense. Now, negative util being confirmed doesn't matter. There's no reason that that is a moral justification, just a scientific justification about pain being worse than pleasure, but that doesn't mean that pleasure has no value whatsoever, and we have reasons that humans are uniquely key from the green evidence in the 1EC and also the Ronheimer evidence about pragmatism. Synthetic biology, increasingly unclear why this causes more pain. We totally, even if we didn't do line by line, we read cards and we get evidence comparison because obviously the LD1 error has to answer all sorts of arguments and we should get to. Now, pain outweighs is relevant just because our highlighting says it's important, says it's a common ground that we can come to as humans while we continue to debate ethical questions as a meta-morality, which was the 1EC's point. Human and animal life, irrelevant. There's no reason that we should care about animals. There's no reason they're part of the moral circle. They didn't extend the arguments about eugenics or whatnot for why animals only matter. Now, yes, warrant for empathy. Humans create ethics. Morality is inherently a human question. We said util is a meta-morality for human existence because moral disagreement, not just pain and pleasure, and then it is empirical. We said it is provisional. Now, neurons, unsure why that matters because it's not a moral argument, just a scientific one. They're missing a reason science matters for this debate. We're winning some internal weak defense. Now, we're just going to win that animal suffering is not inevitable, which should be a logical defense to take out the rest of this, which means even if you're epistemically modest, we're going to win some risk that animal exploitation is going to end soon. First is polls. Polls obviously matter because proves people in the future. Second is they drop lab-grown meat is inevitable. They have no defense to this, and that will ensure that is the last part of the Reese evidence, which is so clear on this. It says that we're working towards efficiency now. Third is that they drop that the costs of animal exploitation make it unsustainable in the future. We don't need to win in the next year because all of our arguments above prove that you should at least err towards the side that human life is important to preserve for the future.
Okay.